This case is a great challenge.
A small Rhode Island town is gripped with fear.
And the citizens, they just panicked.
Police are desperate for answers.
The footprint, one after another, pop up. Boom, 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 boom.
But will the crime-solving skills of Dr. Henry Lee solve this mystery before it's too late?
Can see the killer's image.
The small town of Warwick, Rhode Island was reeling from two hauntingly similar murders. First, Becky Spencer, and 2 years later, Joan Heaton and her family. Now police were afraid a serial killer was living among them. With no prime suspect, police called in Dr. Henry Lee to analyze the trace evidence and to help identify the perpetrator. The first clue was right at the point where the killer entered the house.
The window was broken. The table was crushed, slant to the right with one broken leg.
The individual gets through the kitchen window, landed on the table. Somehow, the table cannot support his weight. That also tells us this individual has to be pretty big and heavy.
Dr. Lee and his longtime associate, Major Timothy Palmbach, the current director of the Connecticut Forensic Lab, duplicated the mysterious trail. Dr. Lee then uses a chemical to enhance the faint smudges of blood.
After spray the area, the footprint, one after another, pop up.
The chemical enhancement revealed the paths the killer took back and forth across the living room, leaving traces of the victim's blood. This information suggested that he was not in a rush to leave the crime scene, another indication that he might have known the neighborhood and the victims.
There was some 4.5 to 5 feet between these individual footprints.
Dr. Lee's experiment confirmed his first impression, that the perpetrator was an unusually large man with a long stride. But between the footprints, Dr. Lee discovered something else. Small drops of blood that seemed to follow the killer's path. Dr. Lee thought the blood drops themselves would provide an additional clue.
That kind of pattern tells us that's a low velocity vertical dripping.
We want to know the distance between the source of blood to the target surface. Drop the blood 1 inch away from the surface and increase.
He had a blood source somewhere around the area where the hands would lie.
Now this individual's hand has to be much higher than me and could be 6 feet.
The size of these blood drops added to a developing picture that would aid the police in their search for the killer. The call immediately went out to be on the lookout for a big man who had a recent wound somewhere on his hand. Detective Ray Pendergast was canvassing the area when he came across a 15-year-old named Craig Price. Craig Price was a big kid and a fixture in the neighborhood, and the policeman who stopped him noticed that one of Price's fingers was bandaged. They decided to bring Price in for questioning. No one wanted to believe that a 15-year-old was the killer they were after. But Price had lied to police about the cut on his hand, and then failed 2 lie detector tests. Ken Anderson and his team of detectives decided these were grounds enough to ask for a search warrant and went directly to Price's home. In a backyard shed, one of the detectives hit pay dirt. He found a set of knives and a wooden knife holder, items missing from the Heaton house. The evidence was brought back to the police station. Inside the trash bag, detectives found several bloody knives, including one with part of the blade missing. The tip of a knife had been found in the neck of one of the victims.
What we're showing here is that there are striation marks that you can see that align such that it is now determined that this knife tip removed from the victim's neck came from or was broken from this knife, which was located in Craig Price's home.
This is the first time of a juvenile serial killer. Early days when we study serial killer, we usually profile the serial killer. We often say it has to be middle age, most likely Caucasian, a loner, living a fantasy. After 45 years now, nothing surprised me